Welcome, everybody, to the Developer Dynasty here on our Wolverine Studios Twitch channel. Very excited to be back with you this week, bringing you your first look at Draft Day Sports Pro Basketball 2022. We've had the Developer Dynasty going for the last 2 weeks. We've been talking Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2022. Both of those Developer Dynasties were just excellent. We had great communication with our viewers. We had great chat. We talked about some really cool ideas, and we are getting very close to first access for everybody who's interested in Pro Football 2022. First access will be very close. We're going to have some news on that next week, and we will also be back on next Wednesday with the football version of the Developer Dynasty, as we have a couple of new things to show off next week. But today we are switching gears and talking Draft Day Sports Pro Basketball 2022. So, as always, thank you to all of our followers and our subscribers. Thank you to everybody who's joined us for this chat. By all means, use the chat box to ask questions, suggestions, anything that you want over the course of the show tonight. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Of course, Draft Day Sports Pro Basketball is my baby. I am the developer on it, so I can answer all of the questions, talk about the things I have planned for it, and I'm looking forward to getting to it. So I already see Chris in the chat from GM Games. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Everybody, make sure you check out GM Games. They do some great streaming work. They have the best college basketball league I've ever seen going. So make sure you check them out there and see how you can get involved in some of their leagues. As everybody knows, for Pro Football 2022, we developed the new UI for the year, which is going to carry over to basketball and the college games as well. So you get a look at that in just a second. And new follower, Judge Judy Slayer. Thanks for the follow. So let's, real quick, I want to show off something that I've added in the new league section. You'll see the familiar challenge mode, sandbox mode, multiplayer mode, and universe mode. I've added a quick start now for, whether you are a veteran of the game and you always set things up the same way, or you're new to the game and you just want to get in and get started and don't want to look at all the options that you have for, for creating the league, which are quite extensive. There's going to be a quick start option now where you'll be able to just do a quick start, and you'll be able to, just choose the save name that you want, and it's going to carry you right into the portion of where you create your player, where you create the person who will be the GM. All of the other stuff will just stay on the default settings. So this will be a new option just to get you going, really quick. If you've already set up leagues before and you just want to have the same setup, you can skip all of the details in setting up a league and get right into the game this year. So I think that's kind of a nice thing for people who are either veterans and they know they want the same thing every time, or people who are new to the game and they just want to get started. So let's load up a test league I've got here, and we'll take a look around. Of course, you can see that the dark theme is what we're going with this year in our 2022 versions, and I think it looks fantastic. I mean, everybody was really raving about it in football, and I think it looks just as good here. One thing that something did come up from the football streams, that a request for Pro Basketball 22. So I invite everybody who, if you're checking in, and you're looking, and your main interest is football, stick around, look at what we're doing in Pro Basketball. There might be some things that carry over, and that you want to see carried over into Pro Football. We still have time to add. So we do try to kind of take the best ideas that that Brooks and myself both come up with in our own games, as well as the community, and and merge them together so that we have all of kind of the best ideas in all of our games. Breeze is in the chat. Welcome, Breeze. Good to see you again. So here you're taking a look at the main dashboard screen. So the layout here hasn't changed from 2021, but obviously I think everything pops a little bit more with a dark UI there. First thing we're going to get to here in other than looking at the new UI is I'm going to go over the standings page. The first thing that you will notice new in the league now is if you are playing a 30 team or you have expanded to a 32 team league, we've added the play-in tournament for the playoffs. I wasn't sure. We didn't add this last year because I wasn't sure that the NBA was going to stick with it. I wasn't sure if it was a a bubble gimmick or something like that. But they stuck with it, and it seems to be how they're going to do things moving forward. So when you go to the league standings page now, in the past you would have seen 8 teams here and then the cutoff. Now you'll see the top 10 who are in the hunt for the playoffs, and the play-in tournament will work exactly like it does, where if you don't know how it works, the top 6 teams are the top 6 seeds in the playoffs. Number 7 and 8 play, and number 9 plays number 10. So the winner of 7 and 8 advances to the playoffs as the 7th seed, and the winner of 9 versus 10 advances to a game to play against the loser of 7 and 8. So really, if you're 7th or 8th, you've got 2 shots at winning your way in to the playoffs. If you're the 9th or 10th seed, you need to win 2 games to get into the 8th seed of the playoffs. So that was something that it's a little bit tricky to kind of deal with logistically, from the way that the code was handling the playoffs before. But it's in there now, and I'll go over to the play screen here. This is at the end of the season where nothing has changed in terms of the season dates. There was actually like a short break right before the playoffs started, so I just kind of fit the play-in games there, and you'll see that there'll be 4 games here on the 12th in the season, and then the winners will play on the 13th, and the playoffs will begin on the 14th. So the bracket hasn't changed at all, so that the bracket will not update until the playoffs actually start. And again, as I'll kind of sim through this, a reminder to everybody, this is still alpha, so there's bugs, there's things that will need to be worked out, but as you can see, I will sim through the 2 days of the play-in tournament, and then the brackets are here. So technically, the playoff bracket doesn't change because the teams who lost in those play-in games did not technically make the playoffs. So they don't get credited for a year of making the playoffs or anything like that. It's not like in college basketball where, the teams who make the play-in game, I guess, technically get credited for making the tournament because they call it the first 4 now. That's not how it works here in pro basketball. It'll just be, those 2 play-in games for the 7th and 8th seeds in each conference, and then the playoffs will move on from there. Going to the chat for a second. Fire God 699, welcome to the chat. He says, "Tell me you fixed the head coach pay." I'm not sure what the issue. You want to kind of chat me up on what the issue is with head coach pay? I'll take a look at that, and obviously some excitement for the idea of the play-in tournament, which I think it's, at first I wasn't crazy about it in the NBA and what they're doing with it, but I kind of like it. I kind of like the fact that there's something to play for. If you're in that 9th, 10th range, and it'll give you something, in here as well to play for. You'll have an opportunity to, make the playoffs if you're in that 9th or 10th spot, as opposed to just, kind of being in that weird spot where you're not going to make the playoffs and you're not going to get a good pick probably in the draft, so it's kind of a loss in there. Here, who knows? You get a chance to maybe make a little run in the playoffs. Kid Coffee Black, welcome to the stream. Definitely one of our avid Pro Basketball 22 players. We are just talking about the addition of the play-in tournament for Draft Day Sports Pro Basketball 2022. As I mentioned, this will only be an option in the 30-team or 32-team leagues right now. Mainly because that's where it comes in the timeline of pro basketball. I might think about scaling it back, where maybe it goes 29, 27, but moving it further back into smaller leagues isn't going to work because it just doesn't work with the dynamics of the playoffs, especially in the smaller leagues where you have a smaller playoff structure. So right now it's only 30, which is what most people play anyways, the 30-team league. Or if you expand to 32, you can do the one-time expansion in the game with the expansion draft to go to a 32-team league, and the play-in tournament will be part of that league as well. Let's see. Fire God says, the end of the year I couldn't afford to extend my head coach, and after a while teams couldn't afford some coaches. Let's look at that. I'll go over to the staff page here. You should have enough. I don't think it should be an issue. If you have a game file from 2021, you can send to our support staff, wolverinestudios.com/support, and open a ticket there. I'd love to take a look at the league. The budget can change. You can change your training staff budget allocation if you weren't aware of that. So if you need more money to pay for your coach, then you can always lower what you're allocating to the training staff. The team budget doesn't get raised really. The the salaries stay fairly stagnant unless you're playing on with the cap raising, but I'm not sure. I don't remember if the coaches' salaries raise in that situation or if they remain the same. There's an option. Let me go to the options page where you can. Let's see. It may just be in setup. I thought there was an option to increase the cap over time. It may be a commissioner option. The cap, the cap change, that you can change, but it doesn't affect the coach's cap. I don't think the coach's salary changes over time in their demands. I think it stays stagnant. So you should always be able to work within the budget. The budget will only change if your ownership changes. So typically, whatever ownership you're working with, that's how much they're going to give you for a staff budget or player budget, unless something changes with the ownership. But I will take a look at it. I will make a note about it and look into it. It's something that hasn't probably been looked at in a while with the coaching salaries. So I will take a look at it. Breeze asks if a team would get a lottery pick with the play-in tournament, they wouldn't get a lottery pick, correct? Right. If you make the playoffs, then you're not in the lottery. If you miss the playoffs, you are in the lottery. So if you finished 8th and you lost the 2 play-in tournament games you would play, and you finished out of the playoffs, then you would get a lottery pick, even though you finished 8th. So whatever teams make the playoffs are not in the lottery. The teams that miss the playoffs are in the lottery. So the lottery picks aren't affected by the play-in. The play-in just is basically affecting the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th seeds. 2 of them get in the playoffs, 2 of them don't, and the two that get in don't get a lotto pick. Even if you were like the 10th seed, if you made the playoffs, you're not in the lottery. So if you don't get to be the 10th seed, get in the playoffs, and get your lottery pick. It's just going to be whoever makes the playoffs does not get in the lottery. If you miss the playoffs, then you are in the lottery. So hopefully that that was clear. All right, let's move on to something else I'm really excited about, and we're going to go over to the player card here. Last year, we had the addition of player types, and let me see if any of these guys are any of the player types. I don't. Maybe this team isn't very good for that. Let's see. Oh, we do have one on this team. So Robbie Haywood on this team, he has the player type for defender. May have to change color of the it showed up better on the white screen before, but now that we have the dark UI, I might not be able to go with the team color here for highlighting the icons. But this page is, staying relatively the same with the ratings. I think with the dark that these ratings really pop out more. I really like the look of, the dark UI and the dark card. So I'm excited about that. But we're going to go over to the player profile. And there was a request, and I've got it. Obviously, like I said, this is an alpha build. We've got to clean up this a little bit here. But there was a request to do radar charts here on the player card because they were so well received as a new addition in Pro Football 22. So I've done that here. I've built the radar chart into the player card. It will be cleaned up. I'll bump it back up the screen. I must have typed something wrong in here. But everything you're going to see for the player types: loyalty, motivation, consistency, greed, playing for a winner, durability, work ethic, and playing time. That's all going to be on this radar chart now. And another new follower, thank you. We've got a couple of new followers during this stream, which is really cool for us. So thank you guys for that. Back on this radar chart is going to give you a different perspective on the personality ratings for the players. And this is really an important part of the game. In the past, we just went with labels here that said motivation high, playing time demand low, stuff like that. This will give you a little bit more of a unique chart. But what's really changed here on this screen is this personality type. And this is brand new. This is something I'm working in right now. So I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about what this is. This is going to make a huge impact in the game in terms of the players, the coaches. It's even going to move into some plans I have for free agency and making that a little bit different. So basically, there's going to be a whole new player personality system here, because the one thing that, we've always done really, really well, I think, is creating player types that you can envision as basketball players. So in this case, this guy Robbie Haywood is a forward. He spends most of his time in the post. He's got some corner three time. He's got some time he spends above the break. So and nothing in the mid range. So you can envision, how this guy is going to play on the court. You also can look at his ball actions by percentage and see that he's hardly ever going to drive and create his own shot. The biggest thing he does other than pass is he's either going to post up for a shot or he's going to catch and shoot, which makes sense because 54% of the time it says he's going to spend his time in the post, so that's where he's liking to catch the ball for a post up, or the rest of the time he hangs out behind the 3-point arc where he's going to do a catch and shoot. So you can envision Robbie Haywood as a player on the court. What I really want you to do in this year's version is envision Robbie Haywood off of the court, and that's what we're going with the personality type system. So what this is, there's going to be 16 different personality types in the game. So in his case, his type is Inspector. Parker Turner, his personality type is Director. So each one of them will have a name. Kirk Johnson is a Mediator. So everyone is going to have a unique personality type within these larger personality types, if that makes sense. So a player like Kirk Johnson as a Mediator, his you know his items here on the radar chart are going to be impacted by his personality type. It's not going to be quite so random anymore. And in his case, a Mediator is going to be a personality that uh, kind of brings people together on the team. You know, there's going to be personalities that are very dominant, very, bossy, very aggressive. There's going to be personalities that, are just withdrawn. There's going to be personalities that, they don't like any criticism at all. So you're going to learn in the game about these different personality types, and you're going to have to kind of manage your team with them. The game has always had the option of having impacts between the players and the coaches and the organization, as you can see here, with different personalities, but it was tough to envision why some players had an issue with each other, or a player had an issue with a coach or something like that, and some people were frustrated in how they could handle it or not knowing what to do about it. So revamping the way relationships work in the game is going to hopefully give you some clarity into the personalities that you're building on your roster. I want you to feel like you're managing players, and not that's we've always done a really good job of managing those players on the court. I want to enhance the experience of managing the players off of the court, and having to deal with these different personality types will is going to give you that, and it's also going to open up new options for us as well, in terms of you know who they connect with as as other players. Kid Coffee Black just asks, is there a way to know what each personality does, or who they can connect well with or bad with? There's going to be something. I don't know how deep I want to go in terms of explaining that versus letting you find it out yet. And I'll take feedback on that, right now. Go ahead and, if you got an opinion on that, anybody, in the chat, you want to talk about that. I do want to, have an explanation of sort of what you're getting with each personality type, but I don't know if I want to, let it be known that, this type clashes with that type. I think you'll be able to learn that as you play, and it won't be random. Like as it is now, there's a hidden rating. That's how it works now. Every player has a hidden rating, and some of them are they just don't mesh based on whatever their hidden rating is. But there's no way of you knowing that until it happens. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a source of frustration for some people, that you couldn't see it coming, whereas maybe in real life you could. You could always see the what players had, what their personality rating was, but you couldn't see really why one guy didn't click with another guy, or one guy always was getting into fights with another guy, or something like that. So reworking this personality thing in the game is going to make that more clear, I think. And then you're gonna when you're looking for a player, you're signing a free agent or something, you're going to have to take into consideration, okay, this Troy Leith here, he is a performer, So his personality type is going to be like kind of like the life of the party, the class clown. Is trying to get along with everybody and make everybody laugh and type stuff like that. So you might have a real for lack of a better word, hard ass on the team. And you might say, if I bring this guy in, he's going to have a problem with the guy who doesn't like people goofing around and fooling around. So you're going to have to consider that when you're bringing players in, and that's always been the goal of the game, is to not just click and see, oh, he's a 2-star guy, I don't want him. He's a 5-star guy, I want him. It's about building the players that will fit well with your team. And the as we talked about, the player, the floor ranges, the ball actions, that does a really good job of creating players on the court, and determining what types of players will mesh well in a basketball game. The personality type is the next leap forward for managing the players off of the floor, which is a management sim here. That's part of what I want you to do. I want you to have to build a complete team both on and off the floor. Of course, now if this isn't your type of thing, if the personalities is more than what you want to deal with, and you just want to play basketball, you can turn the personalities off, and they'll still have their personality types, but as in the past before, they won't they won't impact anything if you turn that option off. But I think that it's going to really present a nice new challenge in the game, which I think is important. I think it's important that the game continues to evolve as a challenge. Seasoned Vet, good to see you in the chat here. He asks, will coaches have personality types? Absolutely. The coaches will have the same one of the same 16 personality types, and you as a general manager will also get to choose your personality type when you create your character, because if you become coach, you'll need that. And they will work in the same way. That will impact the coach relationship, the team relationship, and the organization relationship. These personality types also will impact when you have issues to deal with. So I won't be able to pull one up right now, but when you get these issues to deal with in your email, and it'll say, Damien looks really good out there lately, I'll be talking him on the podcast this week, do you have any comments? When you go to to make your comments about him to the Memphis News here, each player will respond based on their personality type. So it's going to be very important that you learn your players and their personality types, because if you have a guy who is super sensitive about criticism, and you criticize him, then you're going to get a really negative response from him. Whereas if you have a guy who needs to be pushed, needs to be driven, and you don't criticize him, you don't critique him, you don't push him, you're not going to get anything out of him, because that's not his personality. So this is a new thing. I'm still working out some of the the ideas with it, and that's exactly why I wanted to get it out here in the Developer Dynasty, so that we could get feedback from you guys on it. Any ideas you have. When I simmed my season here to get to the playoffs, so I could show the the play-in tournament stuff, I didn't deal with any of the comments during the year. So everybody on my team is mad about something because I just let it all go. And that's why there's so many emails in here about the problems and incidents and stuff like that. But it's going to impact everything that you do if you're playing with the personalities turned on, and it's really going to it's really going to bring a nice addition to the game this year. And of course, for the people who are asking for more radar charts because they liked it in football, there it is there. And you'll get, right now, the the radar chart items are not tied to the personalities yet, something I've just been working on recently, but you'll get a feeling of, for the most part, kind of certain things going with a certain personality. So that'll also help you in terms of finding players who, maybe tend to have a better work ethic or less work ethic or stuff like that, or loyalty to an organization. Whereas certain personality types will be fiercely loyal, and others will, they'll work hard for you while they're there, but then they want a new challenge, and and they want to move on. So it's, almost like, maybe like a Kevin Durant or something. You know, um, he seems to be the kind of player that likes to be in one place for a while and then wants to go somewhere else, and it's for whatever makes him tick, makes him do that. That's what we're trying to represent with the personality type. So I want you to, you know, to have the experience of, maybe even doing everything right, and having a championship team, and being able to provide as much money as possible to the guy, but him, it's still being a player who's like, nah, I got to go somewhere else now. I want it to be real. That's what we're always after, is the pinnacle of realism in our games, and I think that this personality type system is going to bring that on. RBPD 5115 asks, would you ever have cities or orgs players just don't want to play for, kind of like real life? People love LA and New York no matter if they win or not, and they hate going to New Orleans or Sacramento. And Season Vet asks about market size as a desire. I've thought about specific markets, but I don't know. I don't know that I want to do that in particular. And I think that some of the issue is with the organization itself, as opposed to the location. The LA and New York thing also ties into, market size, but also, other factors outside of, the basketball, or even the teams themselves. They want to be, there for business opportunities and things like that. So I don't know that we're going to go in that direction just yet. And you also then get into, like, this, well, if you go play in Toronto, it's, different taxes, and if you play in, Florida, there's no state tax, so players keep more of their money. So there's a lot of those type of things too that I don't think I want to get into, especially with, your ability to rename teams. So you can go in, remember, with the team info, and you can change this team to be any city that you want. They don't have to be Los Angeles. They can be any city, any place, any fictional thing that you want, and the game wouldn't know how to handle that unless you had something based on every city in the world or whatever. So we probably won't go that, but there is the organizational thing where if players are not happy with your organization, other players may not come to your team as well. And that's something too. I talked a little bit about free agency. I know there's been people who have been interested in a deeper free agent system. And that's definitely something that I'm working on. Something that we're going to, implement. If anybody has specific requests or asks there, I know, Chris from GM Games made a mention earlier in the chat about the chase in free agency. So if you have specific ideas, thoughts, you can always message me, message us on Twitter or Facebook, or in the Slack channel. Definitely will take feedback on any of this kind of stuff that we're showing off and discussing here. RBPD says, you just think if you take on a small market team, it should be harder to sign a free agent than a big market team. Yes and no. That's tough, because I think it's about kind of the team culture more than the market size. There are some players that, yes, it's a market size thing, but I mean, if you look at Giannis in Milwaukee, He's staying there. He, seems to love it there. You brought up New Orleans. I mean, I would think that if Zion is happy there and they start, building a team that is good and is, kind of fun, I think that Zion would stay there and have other players go there. I mean, you look at New Orleans with the Anthony Davis situation. I mean, Davis was there a long time. It's not like he was there for like 2 years and it was like, all right, I hate it here. I want to go. They had a lot of years with Davis and they did nothing. They had bad coaches. They didn't, ever come up with a team that was really competitive. So, in Sacramento, you brought up as well. Sacramento's been, a disaster year after year in their front office, changing coaches, bad signings, things like that. So I think it's not necessarily the actual city in those cases. So shout out to anybody listening in New Orleans or Sacramento. I don't think you have terrible cities. I think it's just that the team, the culture, the whole thing is bad for so long that players are like, all right, I tried, I'm out. So I think that, just the same way as New York. How many years in a row did New York get nobody in free agency recently? Brooklyn was getting people, but New York, nothing. Why? Because it was not a very good team. Nobody wanted to go there. Now New York's got a decent team. They're coming back, and now maybe players are talking about wanting to go there. I think Lillard said that if he wanted out, he would want to go to New York. So I think as the team improves, the culture improves, the organization improves, players will want to go there. And I think it's not just a market size thing. And definitely economics wise, it's not a market size thing where you have big markets and small markets for the most part. It's, everybody's got to play with the salary cap. Everybody gets part of the TV money in the NBA and stuff like that. So, it's not like in baseball where there's like a small market team and they just can't spend that much money and stuff like that. Everybody can spend it in the NBA. And the ability your team has to spend in challenge mode comes from the owner here, and each owner has a willingness to spend rating, which determines the player budget that they expect you to stick to. So the ability to try to win with a small budget, that's already built into the game. It's just random based on the owner as opposed to the city. Let's see. Rob Sacker's burner, a bit unrelated for the current topic, but will there be an implementation draft protections for traded picks? You know, I know that's been an ask before, and I'm not ruling it out. But the one thing is, when we talk about something like picks and protections on them, and I'll pull up the draft picks page because some people may not know this page even exists because it's in the media section. When we talk about pick protections, there's a couple of factors. One is tracking them in the code, which can be done. But two is trying to make the AI smart enough that it can't be abused. And when you think about, okay, can't we just throw pick protections on there? It's not that difficult. It's not so much that it's going to be a difficult thing to do, but I want to make sure that the AI doesn't get run over doing it. Whereas, you as a human are smarter, and you can look at your roster, you can look at other teams' rosters and think down the line, okay, this pick, is probably not going to be any good. This team is going to be good. My team, this is my 3-year, 5-year plan for my team. By then, my picks will be, not worth very much because I'll be good then. So, it's and that's why I don't let you trade like picks way into the future either. People have asked for that before. I want to make sure that the AI is solid enough, and it's very good trading in the here and now and for the short term. But in terms of pick protections, it's something I'm looking at still. I want to make sure if I do it that the AI is going to respond appropriately to it. I don't want people to be able to take advantage of the AI in the pick protections. And also, then there's the valuation of it. Right now, that everything internally values picks based on a certain calculation and formula. So that would need tweaking if you're offering a first round pick, but it's top whatever protected, then the AI is going to have to judge that and properly lower the value of the pick based on what sort of protections there are. And the really, really, really complicated part is what happens when you try to trade a pick that is pick protected from somebody else, or people want to get into pick swaps and stuff like that. And I mean, believe me, that's why the teams have like cap people as their full-time job to keep track and deal with all this kind of stuff. I don't want this to be a full-time job for you guys. I want this to be fun. And that's why we don't mimic everything in terms of free agency or contracts or something, because there's so much stuff. So there's always a balance between what's close to realistic and what is fun and want to make you play a game. So it is something that I will take into consideration and see if there's a way to do it so that it's fun and works in the game, kind of like we did with sign-in trades last year. I know I'm past the trade deadline, so I can't pull up the trade screen in this league, but we made a way to do sign-in trades, and it's not exactly like it works in real life, but it's sort of gamified. But it gets you the concept, the ability. So maybe something like that could work with pick protection. I will definitely take a look at it and check it out. So, we have gone for almost 45 minutes now, and it's really been a good stream. I'm glad I got the opportunity to talk a lot about the personality stuff. I definitely am looking forward to feedback, from you guys on the personality thing, because it's going to play a big role in the game in terms of how you manage your team, in terms of how you build a team, in terms of free agency. So definitely, use Twitter, Facebook. You can do a support ticket, or hit me up in our Slack channel, and let's talk about what you like about the personalities, what you're looking for, what you want to see with them. Other than that, of course, we covered the play-in tournament edition tonight. We covered the ability to quickly create a new league with the quick create feature, and of course the beautiful changes to the UI, which I think we took something that was already pretty great, and I think it's just amazing now. It looks even better than it did before. So that is going to do it for tonight for this week's Developer Dynasty. As I said, next week on Wednesday, we'll be back with Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2022 and some final news there before we hit first access. And then we'll be switching back to Pro Basketball 2022 after that. So a lot of work to do still here on basketball, but definitely excited to share some of these new features and looking forward to anything that you guys are still hoping to see. I'm always looking for suggestions and ideas. Definitely we'll take any of those, and that's why we do these developer dynasties and try to be as active in the community as we can, because we want to hear from you. And I talk about this all the time, but I see it with other games. I see people on Twitter, they get excited for a new game, and it comes out, and they say they didn't listen to anything we said. They didn't change anything we wanted. They gave us stuff we didn't want. The problems that we, saw before are still there. Nothing important got changed. They didn't listen to us. That's not going to happen here at Wolverine Studios. We want your feedback. we're going to take it and we're going to, make our games better and better and better every time out. So thank you for coming out tonight for the Developer Dynasty. Thank you to our followers, including the 5 that we got tonight. That might be a stream record. We had 5 new ones tonight. And our subscribers as well. I saw new subs hit just before we went live tonight. So thank you for all of that. We'll be back next week talking football, and definitely have some more news for you on both pro football and pro basketball 2022 very soon. We look forward to getting these games out in your hands. So thanks everybody for coming tonight. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.